Anna Shinnors, you're very welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you, Vicky. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
No problem. And Anna, you're a dramatherapist based in Kildare, and you're doing lots of work online at the moment as well. How are you finding that?
It's okay. I really do miss the face-to-face interaction and being able to, be playing with the children kind of, face-to-face and that. But it's, we're making it work for now. I suppose everyone is having to make some changes for COVID. So it's just about making it work as best we can for now. So yeah, it's definitely more difficult in terms of cues, like body language and that kind of thing. But it's we're making it work, learning every day.
What are the kind of positive things that you've noticed about using the online platforms?
I suppose the children enjoy sometimes sharing their home with you or sharing bits of themselves, like that they mightn't get to show you in other ways, like maybe their animals or some of their toys that they may not get to share with you. So I suppose there is that level of it that that it allows for that, which is nice. And they also, I suppose, get to see some part of the space that you're in, which is interesting. Yeah, I suppose it allows a different level of sharing, maybe. But that's probably the main positive, really, that I've seen from it, the excitement in the children showing you where their dog or their cat or their toys that they play with, or their room or their sitting room or wherever. So
I can imagine it getting very excited and being like, look, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or disappearing for a while to go off and get something, which has happened on occasion as well. But it is nice. It's nice to see the excitement, I suppose, that level of sharing their personal life and their everyday life, which is nice.
So from what age do you work with?
So my youngest client to date has been 4. And I work right up into adulthood. So I have currently 1 adult, and then children and teenagers of varying ages. But yeah, the youngest has been 4. I generally would say school going age up really for myself, is what I tend to do, or just preschool kind of. But so it's real varied work, and obviously you have to change your approach depending on the age that you're working with, and really look at the level of development that the child is at for each session. So yeah, it's interesting work and very varied, which I like.
Yeah. So fresh out of college, Anna, where did you go? What was your first place of work? Where was the first place?
I did the unusual thing, and I went straight into private practice. Most people would try and get an organization, or and try and start that way. But I started private practice work straight away. And I also had the fortunate thing of meeting a principal at a training, who was looking for a dramatherapist to enter the schools. So I've had the schoolwork then for the last 4 years from that, which has been fantastic. And it has gone from 1 school to 2 schools, which has been great. And then I rent a room in my local parish centre, and I use that then for my private practice work.
Okay, so you started in 1 school, and then it grew to having clients in 2 schools, and now you have your private practice online and in Leixlip as well. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's working out well. I'm enjoying it, and I like the variety of the school versus the private practice as well. It's quite a different experience, I suppose, in each of them. So it's interesting to have both going at the same time.
And in the schools, I can imagine the kids being brought down from their classrooms and coming in to see you. Do you find that you get some opportunities to speak with the parents, or is it very much through the school, and then they liaise on like with the parents? Do they work with the parents, or how does it?
Yeah, so it's a to be honest, it's a bit of a mixture of both. So I would liaise with the parents, and the school liaises with the parents as well. But usually once I've begun the work, I'm the one liaising with the parents. So the school kind of would do the initial contact with the parent and offer the service, and then I would meet the parents and discuss it with them, and they would do the self referral then based on that. So and then I kind of every 6 sessions approximately I would meet the parents as well to just do a bit of a review, a general review, see where we're at and how it's going. And yeah, I also the schools have been great, like really, really good support as well. So I know that they have, I suppose, my back throughout it as well for any follow-ups that need to be done or anything, any extra assistance that I need, or support, which is great.
It's a really good service to offer the schools right now, especially,
Yeah.
when this is all finished with, we're going to have a lot of stressed kids and stressed out parents. So it's lovely to see that schools can offer some support. And
Yeah.
Dramatherapy is going to be such an important one, because it involves the body as well. There's a lot of holding of stress and anxiety in the body. So what would you do to kind of, work with that, when we're all finished with this COVID-19?
I suppose, yeah, it is. It's so important. I mean, trauma is very often held in the body, and there's going to be a lot of that. Really, there's been so much change for children, and so much of their world has just been turned upside down, I suppose, and with not being able to see friends or family, and then even the everyday thing of going into schools and the strict um thing of like social distancing and COVID signs everywhere and face masks worn. It's all a big change for the children. So I would use a lot of kind of breathing work and body work with children generally, for anxiety, or if there's any kind of fears held, we would do. I also use a thing called a safe space with clients, and it's I suppose there's elements of, I know Nicola spoke to you in a previous podcast, Nicola Mooney, who's also a dramatherapist, about active image making. So I suppose there's elements of that, but I would start with a meditation, where the child or adult, whoever I'm working with at the time, would be guided through to imagine a safe space that they have in their life, a place they can go, or even an imagined place that they could go and feel safe. And then we would put that on paper, and they would draw it, and then we'd physicalize it in the room. And during the sessions, then they can, if it becomes too much for them, they can step out of what we're doing and go to their safe space in the room. And it's gradually, then it's physicalized, and then sometimes then it's worked out that over the weeks that it gets smaller, and it's a chance for the children to access when needed, when it becomes a bit overwhelming in the work, when the work gets deeper, and they can say, okay, I need to step back from this. And I ask them then, would they like me to enter the space or not with them, and then they've the control and power to say to me yes or no whether they want me to be in the space with them or not. Generally they do want me to be there, but I suppose it's another element of control, because I suppose a lot of this COVID thing, we've really lost control in a lot of our lives. So it's important to empower clients with control over their, their recovery through, through getting back on track with things. So
Yeah.
it's another element of doing that, I suppose.
There's definitely a lot in the clients that are coming to me at the moment, and the people that are coming, they're presenting a lot with exactly that, just trying to find some kind of way of controlling, and that might mean
Mm-hmm.
quite negative behaviors, quite destructive behaviors.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about that, like how can you equip the parents to deal with those behaviors at home? You've created this lovely safe space, and they have that option to maybe bring it with them in their minds, which is really empowering that they can have that. But what about the parents, and how they might support them right now? Because I'm sure there's a lot listening that could deal,
Yeah,
finding
I
that.
suppose for parents, it's about trying to empower parents to know that, that those behaviors are normal at the moment, given, everything that's going on. And I suppose a child will express what's going on in maybe a difficult behavior because they don't have the the words to express what they're feeling. So it's about allowing or encouraging, I suppose, the parent to understand that that's what's happening in the moment, and encouraging them to acknowledge the feelings, and encourage questions from the children. If they've any questions about anything they're worried about, and it's about acknowledging, the the child's feelings and try and reassure them, I suppose, if as often as they can on what's happening. And I know for adults it's even hard to know, because I suppose we don't know how things are going to go either, but it's as best we can, I suppose, to do
Mm.
that. And yeah, it's about just giving the adults, I suppose, a space as well to talk about how why it's happening, and encourage them to acknowledge that for the children.
So it's almost developing like a healthy curiosity, and to just kind of
Yeah.
inquire how things are, and maybe showing a little bit more openness into how they are feeling and how it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And increased communication, I suppose, as
Mm.
well, between the parent and the child, that it's okay to feel like this, and let's talk about what's going on, and, that kind of thing.
And there's been a lot of loss for families as well across the
Yeah,
country,
huge amount.
because yeah, like we look at the numbers every day, and we almost get quite desensitized by the amount of numbers. Like, we're seeing them as cases rather than people, and there's a lot of that going on. But
Mhm.
that's somebody's grandparent, or it's somebody's relation, and there's a lot of children that don't really say how they're feeling, and if they do, they might be a bit older and a little bit more wiser. But a lot of the kids, they don't have that language. So there's
No,
a lot that the grief process is just a little bit different for them. um
absolutely. And I suppose, um, that I know that it's coming to National Children's Bereavement Week, and I suppose it is a big issue for children that they are sometimes lost a little bit in the grief process, or maybe it's not kind of seen as how important that process is for them, to be supported in that process. Um, it can be a little bit lost sometimes. But it's a huge thing for them, and I suppose they're, depending on the age of the child, their level of understanding is very different, at different ages. Obviously, their developmental understanding. So it's about giving them age appropriate information, and talking to them with open, honest, clear language, and it explaining, in a way that they understand, for their age. So, and again, I know I've said it before, but again, acknowledging their feelings and encouraging questions. And it's, I suppose, for parents that can be difficult if they're grieving as well. But it's important, I suppose, for the parents or whoever it is, the carers, to get support, because they're not going to be able to support the child if they're not being supported themselves. So that's really, really important. And sometimes you might need to repeat information to children. Um, so I suppose to be prepared to repeat until the child kind of gets their head around the information that they're being given about what happened to the person, or give them a chance to grieve. Words like heaven and different things that sometimes a child just doesn't understand where that is or what that is. And it can be a hard concept to grasp for a young child, or even an older child, to understand where that's gone, and I suppose, or where the person is gone. And I suppose, for particularly in the time of COVID, that's even more difficult at the moment, because particularly if it's a COVID death, we don't have the full funeral process now. So it's very difficult. But I suppose there's alternatives then for children, is to maybe try and maintain as routine as much as possible, and maybe things could be done virtually, like a virtual ceremony, or even to connect with families virtually. That families could connect online, maybe to create memory boxes, or memory jars, or that kind of thing with sand, and even ask the child to write a poem or say part of the eulogy if they are attending the funeral. Um, but it's so important, I suppose, to acknowledge to them that all the feelings are okay, and that children, they say that children tend to do what they call puddle grief. So they're not wouldn't be necessarily sad all the time, but they tend to dip in and out of the grief if they're diverted by friends or school, etc. So they tend to kind of pop in and out of the grief. And that can sometimes be difficult for relatives who think that everything is going okay, and then suddenly the child is back in the grief again. But I suppose it's to understand that, like, everything is normal, and everything is okay. There is no right way to grieve, or no wrong way to grieve. It's just whatever the child needs in the moment, and the adult whatever they need in the moment as well. Meeting with other bereaved children can really help as well. So if there are any bereavement groups or that kind of thing, I know Rainbows is one that I can think of, but there's lots of different groups, and therapy groups and that as well. Because I suppose they are meeting with others and sharing experiences, and understanding that they're not the only one in this, because I suppose grief can be quite an isolating thing as well. So yeah, they're all important things.
Yeah, I think grief is just halved when it's shared, isn't it? Like,
Totally.
that's
Yeah.
why, the traditions in Ireland anyway, they can be really helpful.
It's so important. Yeah, so important. And I think, like, I had a bereavement during COVID myself, and I suppose we were lucky in a way that it wasn't a COVID related bereavement. So we were able to have the funeral, albeit there was 10 of us at it, but we were able to have the immediate family at the funeral and stuff. But I suppose I had always known the importance of ritual, but it was really shown to me more than ever when we couldn't have a proper wake, and we couldn't have the thing of extended family getting together and sharing stories, and the importance of just being around each other and supporting each other through it. I think it's such a vital part of the process for everyone, I think.
Yeah, and you're talking there about like reaching out virtually to extended family, and there's something nice as well about the old-fashioned letter writing. There's
Yeah,
such
absolutely.
chain letters, and just writing them out, and getting
Absolutely.
conversation going. It can be a really nice way.
Absolutely. And that could be another way as well for a child, maybe to write a letter to the person who has died either. Um, that can be another nice way for them um to process what's going on. And they maybe even, that could be possibly even buried with the person if the child wants that, or kept. somewhere for the child
Yeah.
to read as well. So it's, there are lots of, I suppose it's about being a bit inventive at the minute, and trying to come up with different ways to allow the child to process that grief. But the main thing I suppose I would say is to try and include the child as much as possible in the process. And the need for information as well changes, as we grow and develop. So I suppose what you would tell a 4-year-old would be very different to what you tell a 14-year-old. So it has to be, I suppose, age appropriate and that kind of thing. But I suppose it's important to remember as well, the actual death is an event, but the consequences are carried on then from childhood into adulthood. So it's about, the child feeling when they get to adulthood that they process that death. So it's about, allowing them to do that in childhood, so that they're not carrying that unresolved grief with them throughout their life.
Yeah, I think you're like on the money there. Like that's such an important thing that you just said. And like, you mentioned the parents maybe need a space. There's also this lovely opportunity to get closer together and to become a whole as a unit, facing it together.
Yes.
And there's something nice about, maybe possibly reading stories that maybe have the
Yeah.
theme of grief. There's so
Yeah.
many beautiful ones, but if you could recommend even just one for our listeners, that would be really good.
Yeah, so I suppose one that I have used several times with clients, and that is The Invisible String by Patrice Karst, Karst. And that is a really beautiful one. The another one is The Day the Sea Came Out and Never Returned, or Went Out, sorry, and Never Returned.
Oh, I love that one.
Um, but yeah, it's a really nice one as well. But
Is
I
it
suppose,
Margot Sunderland? Is that the name?
yeah, Sunderland. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or Sutherland. But yeah, that's a lovely one as well. But I suppose I suppose as well, I just wanted to add, when I think about what I've just said, I suppose it puts a lot of pressure on the parents, and I suppose I don't want to um kind of be putting that pressure on parents to get it right. At the same time, there is no right and wrong in this. So it's about the parents doing what they feel is appropriate in the moment, for their particular situation. But I suppose as best you can to involve the children. But I suppose the saying that it's, the actual death is an event, but the consequences are carried, I suppose, is putting a lot of pressure maybe on a parent. So I suppose another option would be that if there is, if the parent is grieving, that maybe they appoint another adult that, like an auntie and uncle or something, that the child could go to and ask the questions to, and that could be their help. Because very often people will ask us, when we're grieving, is there anything I can do to help? So maybe they could assign another adult that could take on that role for the child if they're unable to do it themselves in the moment. And then when they can, then they can connect, to it with the child again. But it's yeah, it might be a lot of pressure, I suppose, if you're grieving yourself.
Mm.
So it might be a good idea to have another adult that could be there to support the child as well.
Yeah.
And that the child knows that they can go to that specific adult if they have any questions that they need answered, or for support. Important one.
And you mentioned earlier the Bereaved Children's Awareness Week, and that's coming up this. I think it begins. Is it Monday next week?
Monday, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, Monday the 23rd. So it's yeah, there are various events. The Irish Children Bereavement Network, ICBN, are very much involved in that and organising it. And they have a couple of events on their website that will be happening over the week. And I think it's just a really important week to highlight what's happening for children in the grief process, and so that people understand, I suppose, the importance of minding children in that process, and supporting them in it. So it's a really good week, I suppose, for highlighting those issues.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that there's actually a full week dedicated to it, not just a day.
Yeah,
It's really good. Um,
absolutely.
and especially these times, I suppose it's really needed even more so. And the month of November can be very difficult for a lot of people in the lead up to Christmas. And if there's a
Yeah,
loss anniversary coming up or anything like that, it's hard. Christmas is such a family orientated time, and
it is. It
you know
is. And I think it's a time when the loss is felt so much more, really. The person would have been there, in the middle of all the celebrations, the Christmas celebrations or that. So I think it's a really um a time that it'll just be noticed so much more. And there's such an emphasis on family around Christmas. So I think, and families being together and spending time together, that I think it's a time when it's just felt so much more. But yeah, another organization actually that are very good for the week is Jacinta Smile. And they are siblings, lost three siblings over the years for different various reasons. And I know that they're running now. I know COVID has kind of stopped some of their activities a bit, but I know that they run workshops and activities days for children who have lost a sibling. And they're fun days that they can get together and share experiences and stuff. But I know that they have some events on the ICBN, the Irish Children's Bereavement Network website as well, that I know Jacinta Smile have some links there that they for different events that they're running as well. So might be something to look at as well.
I love the resources that Bernardo's have as well, and they're all free and downloadable. They're ebooks,
Yeah,
and there's some really great ones there on children and bereavement in the family.
really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and the Irish Hospice Foundation as well are fantastic. They run a course. I did the professional certificate in children and loss, but they run several courses on loss and children. And it's they're a great resource as well.
and how did you find the course when you were doing it?
It was really good. Um, it was quite interesting, I suppose. It highlighted things, maybe the importance of things that I might have taken for granted in terms of children, and and their loss, and their understanding of loss, I suppose, and how it impacts them. So it was really good. I was already working, like I just did it last year, so I was already working in the area in private practice, but I wanted to, further look at that specific area. So it was really interesting. I found it very good, and very beneficial, and lots of ideas for creative work that can be done in during the grieving process with children.
And the likes of Jacinta Smile and how they have their groups and their workshops. Like, would you ever think about doing workshops, online to help with?
Yeah, absolutely. My plan is in the next this week actually to launch um a session sorry, a group thing for 8 sessions. And I would hope to have that launched in the next maybe 48 hours. So that'll be on my Facebook page, Anna Shinnors Dramatherapy, and my Instagram, Anna Shinnors Dramatherapy as well. So I am planning on running it for 10 to 12-year-olds, and it'll be 8 consecutive weeks. So yeah, and then I hope to run other ones for different age groups in the future as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna. I think we'll have to
Thank
have you
you,
on
Vicky.
again because, you know, I think this topic is something that is difficult to talk about, and
Mm,
it's nice to give it a platform. And we might get lots of questions about it after that you could maybe come back on and answer. You know, we could
absolutely,
maybe do
yeah.
a Q&A or something. It could be very helpful, I'm sure, for a lot of parents and families.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you very much. And we'll just have to watch this space for all the workshops that will be happening. And anyone who has a 10 to 12-year-old relation, maybe they can get in touch with us if they need to, or get in touch with Anna Shinnors Dramatherapy, which is on Facebook, Instagram, and her website as well. And you can find her on IACAT.ie as well.
Yeah, I'm on IACAT as well.
Yeah. Um,
Great.
So
Thanks,
thank
Vicky.
you so much. It's been really lovely, giving me so much food for thought. And I still haven't got the book Invisible String, so I actually feel like just putting that on my Christmas wish list now.
Oh, it's brilliant. There's a workbook with it as well, which is really
Lovely.
good. So it's well worth it.
Brilliant. So I'll ask Santa now. Thanks so much, Anna, and take
Thanks, Vicky. Take care.
goodbye.